I'm so happy to welcome you to Storytime today and that we're able to share this time together. The book that we're going to read this morning is probably one of the most famous Christmas books that has ever been written. It's called The Night Before Christmas, and it was written by a man called Clement Clarke Moore. It's been published over and over and over again. And so for that reason, I thought it would be a good reason to do it today. It's a classic. And what is a classic? A classic is a book that is timeless. Timeless meaning that it has something to say to every generation. Now, when Mr. Moore wrote this book, he didn't think it was ever going to be a book. He wrote it for his 6 children on a Christmas Eve and read it to them. And it was only for the family. But a friend of theirs, Harriet Butler, spoke to one of his children. And sometimes kids can't keep secrets very well. So one of the children told Mrs. Butler about The Night Before Christmas. And Mrs. Butler sent it to a newspaper. The newspaper published it. And poof, it became widely circulated and widely read. And so it came all the way down to us in 2009 for us to read and enjoy. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is the illustrator. She's a very, very famous illustrator. Her name is Jan Brett. And Jan Brett's mother always read this story to her on Christmas Eve. And Jan loved this story. But for a long time, Jan couldn't get a handle on how she was going to illustrate this story because she loved to draw furry things like animals and creatures. And she thought and thought and thought. And one night she was in bed and she popped up and all of a sudden it came to her. The line, not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. So she came up with the idea of 2 elves in Santa's sack and to see what would happen. And she said, that's how I can illustrate The Night Before Christmas. So this is Jan Brett illustrating Clement Clarke Moore's version of The Night Before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums, we don't have sugar plums very often today, but they're a candy. The visions of sugar plums danced in their heads, and Mama in her kerchief, guess it was cold, so she wore a little kerchief, and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn, there arose such a clatter. I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutters and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new-fallen snow gave a luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer. With a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted, "Ho!" and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donder and Blitzen. To the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle, mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with a sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkling I heard on the roof the prancing, and the pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled. His dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, and his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard on his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, it encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly that shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed. I laughed when I saw him in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know that I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, and then turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team, the team of reindeer. He gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Now, we just finished reading The Night Before Christmas by Clement Clarke Moore, and we know how that came to be published. But here's something I think you don't know. It is the most published Christmas book ever, the most read, the most memorized. You all know how to memorize, don't you?
Yeah.
People have been memorizing